As you guys know, I kind of do things on the fly, and I don't really always have a set schedule for certain products or certain items that I'm going to review. But I was so excited about this one because I've been anticipating it for a long time that I actually took the She-Hulk Hot Toys figure out of rotation because I wanted to do this one first. So bear with me, I'm going to do the She-Hulk soon. It's actually going to be the next video, but I just was really excited about this. Now, Hot Toys had released a 1/4 scale Dark Knight figure before, so this is kind of like 2.0, but will point out why it's a little bit more than that. Now, when this initially came out, I was really bummed that I missed out on the 1/4 scale. But they did this kind of re-release, which is called the deluxe version, but it has a lot more options. So I don't think it's just a 2.0, I think it's a lot more than that, and we're going to get into it into the review. Easily, the Nolan Batman films are kind of masterpieces in and of themselves, and they stand alone in this very unique universe, the Nolan universe, I suppose you call it. And you gotta say that the impact of these films really changed what a comic book movie really could be, and I in many ways think that it's segued into what we know comic book movies to be now. Now, to be fair and full disclosure, of course, I never actually owned the original 1/4 scale Batman figure, the Dark Knight figure, so to speak. So I really can't make a direct comparison. I can only tell you based on what I know from the original run how this thing differs, especially if you have the deluxe set, which we'll get into. Nevertheless, I think it's magnificent that they re-released some version of this 1/48 scale for those who hadn't gotten it the first time around, because of course they're going for astronomical prices on the secondary market. So today we're going to be reviewing Hot Toys version of Batman, the special edition 1/4 scale figure from the Dark Knight trilogy. Let's take a closer look. You know, the thing that really pissed me off almost immediately when I took this out of the packaging is how much it ruins the 1/6 scale version for me. Now don't worry, I'm not getting rid of it anytime soon, but this is absolutely beautiful, and I'm so glad that I now own this in 1/4 scale. That's definitely Christian Bale. I love the cowl, it's so iconic, very form-fitting to his face. Most importantly, it does come with a purr system. In my opinion, the system that you get with this is a little more sophisticated so you don't get goofy eyes. Most importantly though, I love that the head is actually magnetic, so you can get a full range of motion and get some great poses with this figure. Now in the film, The Dark Knight is really when he changes to this more tactical, utilitarian suit, which is really awesome. Don't get me wrong, I love the original one, but there's something so cool and iconic about this. The modularization and how the individual armor sets really come together to give him maximum protection, but again, a lot of fluidity and flexibility, just like he requested from Mr. Lucius Fox. The gauntlets on this version of the Batsuit is really among my favorites just because it looks like it'll do a lot of freaking damage. I love the angles as well. They're very jagged and rigid and angular and look pretty menacing. I mean, if you really hit somebody, it's going to do a lot of damage like I mentioned. And I also like the textures in the gloves themselves. Then there's the Bat utility belt, and this is made out of actual metal, which is just amazing to me. The lower section of this piece just serves to exemplify how much thought went into the actual Batsuit and the movie production, and just how important it is to have that layer of defense, but the flexibility that he needs. The knee pads are done very well, and one of the cool things about this particular figure is that when you get down to the boot area, and as you can see here, things are very textured and you can really see a lot of detail. But most importantly is when you get down to his boots, it has a really well defined ball joint system so that you got maximum fluidity, flexibility, so that if you want to do some really dynamic poses, you can certainly do so. The modularization of the suit really helps as well. So it's Batman, so he's always packing some kind of weaponry or some unique technology. You know, in the crime fighting business, you kind of need that. So this thing is really cool. I was really impressed with it in the film. It is the kind of like EMP pulse rifle, which knocks out all electronics, which is really awesome. It's very detailed, and I think this actually has a light up feature so that you're going to get some translucent lighting on the tips. Really cool, and I like that it's held in the hands so well. As you can see, it's really iconic at this point. Now you definitely want to mirror this piece in any way that you can because there's a lot of detail going on the reverse side. Again, one of the things that I really love that they transferred over from the 1/6 scale figure is that they have that magnetic kind of ball system so that you can do swiveling very easily and get some really cool poses. I love this cape. It is so amazing. The folds are fantastic. There is a little bit of grime and grit at the bottom, and it actually overflows the actual base, and it just looks really cool. It floats very nicely, and it's made out of this very high-end material. And of course, at the 1/4 scale, I would expect that in the cape. Now, the base to me is really freaking awesome, and I'm going to show you why in a moment. But if you're worried about real estate, guys, I'm sorry, but this is going to take up a lot of it. Anybody think that this base, or at least this backside, looks like Chozo technology? If you're a Metroid fan, you're going to get that reference, but it does look really fantastic. The beak is very well sculpted, and on the actual plateau of the base, it has this really stone etched in its kind of perforated bat symbol, which looks really great. I mean, I can't say enough about this base. It just looks really awesome, but here is the selling point. So this is labeled as the Dark Knight Trilogy Batman, so you have a wonderful sculpt of the legendary, unfortunately gone too soon, Heath Ledger and the Joker symbol, but you also get the other villains in the trilogy. You also get Bane, which looks absolutely fantastic, etched in stone there, and of course, starting off the trilogy is the legendary Ra's al Ghul, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but it is just so awesome that we have the three kind of iconic villains all lumped up into this base, and it just looks really awesome, and that's what really separates this. Now, because it is the deluxe edition, and again, I'm not sure if they had this in the original, but we do get a nice bust and a sculpt of the unmasked version of Bruce Wayne, and this just looks amazing. This is definitely Christian Bale. The hair is sculpted to perfection, and you see the individual strands, especially when the light hits it, the imperfections in the skin, the brow, just everything about Christian profile is definitely represented in here. And I like that you have this additional accessory, which is really fantastic in terms of giving you other display options. Now, in addition to that, you also get the sonar kind of cowl, the sonar imaging cowl. This is a light up feature, which is really freaking awesome. And I don't know, it's sometimes you have a little bit of trouble deciding on how you want to pose things. Again, if you don't want to directly pose it on the figure, you do have this bust that you can attach it to, so you can still display it while not exactly having to use it on the figure. And I think this is awesome as an accessory. Again, the more opportunities and the more choices you have to display these things is just wonderful for the consumer. And of course, we get yet another version, which is the unmasked version, so to speak. So if you wanted to have the actual head sculpt for Christian Bale and you wanted to have him holding his actual cowl, you can certainly do so, which is really awesome. I think those are probably the most iconic ones when you see your superhero or your favorite hero just kind of holding his cowl or his mask. It's just really awesome. This is definitely something that I did with a 1/4 scale version of Tony Stark, which looks really awesome and always look really great with those more historic kind of like heroic poses. So you also get two faceplates, which fortunately are magnetized as well, so you can like interchanging them, and it's not a pain in the ass. You don't have to do too much work. You have one that's slightly kind of a limp in his lip, which looks a little bit weird, and then of course where he's kind of gritting his teeth. From what I understand in the movie, it was really hard for Christian Bale to breathe in the actual cowl itself, so a lot of times he had his mouth open, and that's why you kind of see these really weird faces that he made. It's really weird. In many ways, some of the accessories in the weaponry really mirror the 1/6 scale figure, and it starts with this grapple gun, which is now iconic for the series, and it has an attachment, so if you wanted to put the grapple gun on the actual utility belt, you can certainly do so. Because it's in 1/4 scale, obviously the detail is going to be much more enhanced, and as you can see, I mean, this thing just looks beautiful and a perfect recreation of what we see in the film. Again, these accessories allow you to do a lot more poses, and that's always a very wonderful thing. Now, easily one of my favorite accessories, and something that I don't know if it was in the original or not, is the kind of like pull apart or transformable sticky bomb gun. When you see in that kind of like scene where he goes to China to get back the Chinese bankman, and he kind of shoots it at the window. I'm not explaining this very well, but nevertheless, we get it. It's very detailed, and it can be broken down, so just like you can see in the movie, you can compartmentalize it so that you can fit it on the actual utility belt. Now here we have the PERS device. So if you definitely want to change out the eyes, make it look more menacing, or just kind of do some more dynamic poses with the eyes and just make it look very cool, I think again this is a much more sophisticated per system at 1/4 scale, because it's a lot larger, it's a lot more room, and it does make it less likely that you're going to make him look goofy in terms of the eyes. Now, one thing that I think is cool, and something that I've always wanted to own personally, and again, I don't know because I didn't own the other 1/4 scale, is the retractable backpack for his actual bat wings. So again, going back to the reference in the film where he's in China getting that Chinese banker, Basically, he's got this backpack on and he just throws himself off the building. It's retractable and he gets his bat wings. Now this one isn't retractable, but I think it's cool and it fits on him perfectly in terms, again, of another way to display this figure, which is awesome. And of course, you get some very unique and awesome accessories, and because they're 1/4 scale, they're a lot larger. Things like the 3 batarangs, and of course you get the little bat bomb, so to speak, that device that looks kind of like a porcupine, and then several other accessories that you can put on his actual utility belt. Now these things are really awesome, and again, because of the scale, it's a lot less likely that you're going to lose these things. You guys know how I am. I always lose these things when I'm popping them out, so I just leave them in the trays. But again, some more display options, and these things are really freaking cool to have around. Now, probably the most important thing, and I've been saying this for years, is that Hot Toys gives you these complimentary batteries for the light up features on their figures. This is very important, especially at the 1/4 scale, because, you know, it's just going to look really awesome once you light things up, and you don't have to go running around all around the city to try to find these batteries, because they're not easy to find sometimes, and because they're so small, you may not get the right one. So thank you, Hot Toys, for continuing to do this and making our lives a little less more of a pain in the ass. And finally, rounding out the last bit of accessories are 4 additional hands for various poses. Some of them have very unique functions, just like most Hot Toys figures do. I gotta say, you know, even though this is a 1/4 scale, they are incredibly detailed. Just take a look at the textures and the knuckle guards. They're on this high polish, and then of course the other textures on the fingers, and they're just really well done. And I know that sounds silly, but I have to remark on the small details that really make this figure come alive. So here are my thoughts on this figure. If I had a time machine and I can go back in time and kind of like not get the 1/6 scale figure and just wait for this one, which I didn't know was going to come out, I would definitely do it. Now, I'm not getting rid of my 1/6 scale figure because I still think it's pretty awesome. So it's just a question of the scale, but this is beyond Holy Grail piece and beyond legendary figure. This is just something that you need to own if you're a Batman fan, especially if you're a fan of the trilogies. This thing is just incredible, especially this scale. It just really makes this thing that much more lifelike. And the fact that this is kind of a 2.0 version, except not really, because it gives you a lot more accessories and a lot more options that probably, or more than likely, were not available in the first version. I don't know. You guys let me know who owned the first version if you had these accessories. I know this is a deluxe version, so you definitely didn't get the bust or anything like that, but let me know about the other ones. But nevertheless, I have to say, if you have an opportunity to pick this one up, definitely pick it up. It is a freaking badass figure. It's a centerpiece, and definitely, if you're a hardcore collector, you really need to have this one. Highly recommend it. I am so glad that I finally got not only this piece in my collection, but this particular version of it. So definitely pick it up, guys, if you can. Alright everybody, so that's my official review of Hot Toys version of the Batman, the special edition 1/4 scale figure from the Dark Knight trilogy. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next Route Desert Reviews.